Now, if you're a fan of leather fragrances and you don't mind a touch of incense, some woods, perhaps even a touch of violet leaf, we have a fragrance here by Parfumeur. This one is called 603. This is an awesome leather-based fragrance for the colder weather. I'm looking forward to giving you my thoughts on this very soon, so make sure to stay tuned. Now, before I begin today's episode and I give you my thoughts on 603, this is not a new fragrance. This actually came out in 2020. It's by the brand Parfumeur. I've actually reviewed one or two other fragrances from this brand. But before I begin today's episode, I do want to mention that if you are a fan of fragrance-related content, please do consider supporting the channel by subscribing to it. Hit that neighboring bell icon and of course give this video a thumbs up for the YouTube algorithm. It would really mean a lot to me. So I know there's a lot of leathers on the market. There are some that are very animalic. There are some that smell like saffron because saffron is a spice that's used in leather accords. There are some that are very smooth and supple, and you do have that suede leather variety on the market as well. So here, the leather is combined with some resins. Some of them like labdanum are on the sweeter side of things. And then of course you also have a touch of frankincense. And then you do have violet leaf as well with a touch of nutmeg. So you have a couple different spices in here. So I do consider this to be a very interesting take on the note or accord of leather. Nevertheless, I'm looking forward to giving you my thoughts on the smell in just a little bit. Let's start things off with a quick look at the presentation first. So now in terms of the smell, if we look at the three notes that are listed on the front here, you have leather, incense, and tonka bean. So of course you can expect this to be a little bit on the sweeter side of things, especially in terms of the resins that are being used in here. Because all things considered, you think of incense, it could be any number of things. It could be frankincense, it could be copal, it could be benzoin. There's many different varieties of incense, of course. And you do have a touch of frankincense in here, and perhaps that gives off a little bit of a green vibe, but there's also cypress. So there's an earthy tendency in here, something that smells a little green, a little foresty, but the sweetness kind of overtakes it. And what I mean by that is that tonka bean that it's in here, it's a little powdery, there's this smoothness about it, and it's not overly sweet. Of course, this is not a gourmand by any stretch of the imagination, right? This is predominantly leather and, you know, the green ingredients that are in here, but the tonka bean that's utilized in the base is actually really nice. It's really smooth. Now, what I can comment as far as the leather is concerned, it will put you in the mindset of like a Tom Ford's Tuscan leather. So if you're wondering what kind of a leather accord is this going to give off, that's what you can pretty much have in mind, right? So that expectation is there. However, that's just a tiny fragment, right? One tiny variable, one small puzzle piece of the entire composition. This one actually does go in a much different direction because of all of the other ingredients that kind of shape it, right? So if the skeleton is that leather, there's a lot else happening in here. The cypress, the violet. You know, it's interesting. I went online and some people were even comparing it to Dior's Fahrenheit. I think I can see a little bit of that in here if I'm being honest. So it's almost like a hybrid or a fusion between Tom Ford's Tuscan leather and Dior's Fahrenheit. And I say that because of the inclusion of the violet leaf. But again, this one has that tonka, so it's a bit sweeter. And the violet is on the cleaner side of things. So there's less of that petrol quality that you would find in Dior's Fahrenheit. All things considered, this is a really interesting fragrance. You have that resinous warmth in the dry down on account of the benzoin and the incense and the labdanum and all these other like really wonderful resins that are residing in the base. You do have that clean quality on account of the violet. You do have a touch of saffron in there as well. So I know it's not listed in the note breakdown, but I'm personally getting the saffron that contributes to that leather accord. And there's also a bit of cashmere on, so you do have this really nice smoothness in the dry down that I think works hand in hand with the tonka bean that's in there too. You know, some sweetness can come across a bit juvenile or cloying. Of course, if you utilize something like ethyl maltol, or if you have some really dulcet ingredients like toffee or caramel or something like that, but that's not what's happening in here, right? You do have this natural sweetness that is a byproduct of the tonka bean, but it's not trying to be sweet in any way. So that's what I really am trying to say in regards to that sweetness that's in the base of this fragrance. All in all, this is a violet, cypress, leather, and tonka fragrance, and I think it's divine. I think this is an awesome new take on leather. And it's a leather that doesn't try to be leather, if that makes sense. I'm personally really enjoying 603, and you have my word that in the coming months, I'm gonna be wearing a lot of this. You know, I stepped out of my house today, it was in the 50s, which is starting to get quite cold for the tri-state area, although 50 isn't cold, let's be serious, especially for my Canadian brothers and sisters up there. I know they're gonna criticize me, but for me, it's the first time that I stepped outside and there was a bit of a chill in the air, and I said, okay, now it's time to start wearing some of the heavier fragrances, and this is certainly one of them. Let's go ahead and finish things off with my overall assessment. So first up, in terms of the uniqueness and the overall smell, like I said, I got a tiny bit of Tuscan leather, I got a tiny bit of Dior's Fahrenheit, but aside from that, this one is unique. It does go in its own direction eventually, and it does utilize some elements that are not found in any of those two other fragrances. So all in all, it does have a certain level of uniqueness that it possesses, and we need to give it credit for it. Overall smell is really nice, but it is on the more experimental side of things. So if you're looking for like this mass appealing, mass manufactured compliment getter type of a DNA, this one is a bit more sophisticated. This one is a bit more intricate and complex. So try it for yourself first. Longevity on this one was a solid 8 to 9 hours on skin. Projection was great for the first hour of application. It radiated within an arm's length. It became an elbow's length scent right around hour 6, a skin scent right around hour 8. In terms of the versatility, look, totally unisex, great for the colder weather, great for formal scenarios, probably more appealing to somebody who's a little bit older. And as far as the presentation is concerned, I do like how they change the aesthetic of the bottle depending on the fragrance. And I actually do kind of like the simplicity of it as well, that they just assign a 3-digit number to the fragrance as they've done in the past with the ones that I've covered on my channel. My final verdict on this fragrance is, if you're looking for that Tom Ford Tuscan leather type of a leather, you want something that is a bit sweeter, but not on the fruity or berry side of things. You like green, earthy notes, incense notes, cypress, violet, frankincense, benzoin, labdanum. Check out 603 by Bon Parfumeur. I think this is a wonderful take on leather, and one that I'm certainly going to be wearing, especially now in the autumn. I know this fragrance house has some heavier offerings, so perhaps I'll wear those in the winter time, but as far as the autumn is concerned, I think this one is absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for joining me today. That was my review of 603 by Bon Parfumeur. Have you tried this fragrance, or have you tried anything from this brand? If you have, let me know what you think. Drop your comments down below. Also, please don't forget to support the channel by subscribing to it, hit the bell, and give this video a thumbs up. Thanks again for watching. I love you guys, and we'll see you tomorrow with a new episode.